Have you ever really thought about how you move? You decide, I'm going to pick up this cup of coffee, and it just happens. But between that simple thought and the actual action, there's this incredibly fast, super efficient system at play. You can think of it like a two-neuron highway. And today, we're going to map out that entire journey.
It feels instant, right? 1 second you think it, the next your thumb is moving. But that command is actually traveling along a very precise biological highway. So, how does that signal get all the way from your brain down to your thumb without a single wrong turn? Let's trace that path together.
So every single voluntary movement you make is kind of like a signal taking a road trip through your nervous system. And this journey has a very clear starting point, a super important handoff, and of course a final destination.
Okay, so every single voluntary action, from you waving hello to a friend to kicking a soccer ball, it all begins right here. A specific little cluster of neurons in your brain's primary motor cortex fires off an electrical command. This is basically mission control giving the final go for launch. Now, this entire process relies on what's basically a two-neuron system. It's super elegant. The first neuron is the long-distance traveler, carrying that command all the way from the brain. And here's the cool part, it actually crosses to the opposite side at the brainstem. That's why the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body and vice versa. Then it hands off the message to a second neuron right there in the spinal cord, which makes the final delivery to the muscle.
So let's properly meet the two key players in this little relay race. You can think of them as two parts of a highway system. You've got the main interstate, and then you've got the final local road that takes you right to your destination.
First up is the upper motor neuron, or UMN for short. This is the master commander. It's the long-haul trucker carrying the initial plan from the brain all the way down the spinal cord. And it doesn't just say move. It's also in charge of regulating how you move. Providing all the control and coordination from the top down.
And next up, we've got the lower motor neuron, or LMN. This is the final messenger. Its home base is in the spinal cord, and that's where it gets the handoff from the UMN. Then it leaves the spinal cord and connects directly to the muscle. When the LMN fires, the muscle contracts. Simple as that. It's the direct command, move. This quote right here gets to the heart of the most important dynamic between these two. See, you can think of the LMN as always being ready to go, just itching to tell the muscle to contract. The UMN, on the other hand, is the sophisticated manager. It not only gives the go signal, but, and this is absolutely crucial, it also provides the brakes. It refines the movement and tells the LMN when to stop, preventing any kind of uncontrolled, jerky actions.
But what happens when this perfect system breaks? What if there's damage somewhere in this command chain? Well, this is where understanding this two-neuron system becomes absolutely critical for doctors.
Let's just think about this logically for a second. Damage to that main interstate highway is going to cause a very, very different kind of problem than, say, a pothole on the final street leading to your house, right? The effects on your muscle are going to be completely different depending on which neuron gets injured.
And of course, these roadblocks have real-world causes. UMN damage can happen from something like a stroke or a tumor that affects the brain or the spinal cord. LMN damage, on the other hand, often happens when that final nerve root gets injured just as it's leaving the spinal cord.
The signs and symptoms of this damage are so incredibly distinct that they lead to two very different types of paralysis. And by observing these signs, a doctor can actually pinpoint where in that long command chain the problem is. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so this is basically the cheat sheet for neurologists. It's so cool. If the UMN is damaged, remember, that inhibitory stop signal is lost. So the muscle becomes super tight and rigid. We call that spasticity. And the reflexes go wild. They become overactive. But if the LMN is damaged, that final wire to the muscle is pretty much cut. The muscle goes limp and floppy. That's flacidity. The reflexes are gone, and the muscle itself starts to waste away.
So, why do the reflexes go so wild? Well, reflexes, like that classic knee jerk you get at the doctor's office, are managed locally in the spinal cord by the LMN. The UMN's job is to constantly send a calming inhibitory signal down to keep those reflexes in check. So if you damage the UMN, that signal's gone, the local reflex is left completely unsupervised, and it just overreacts to everything. The brakes are off.
All right, let's put all this together with a real-world example. This is where you can really see how powerful this distinction is for diagnosing the precise location of an injury.
So just imagine an injury right here, high up in the neck. Now, this single point of damage is going to affect the arms and the legs in two totally different ways. How is that even possible?
And this is where it all clicks into place. At the exact level of the injury in the neck, the lower motor neurons for the arms are directly damaged. So as a result, the arms show LMN signs. They become limped or flaccid. But, and here's the key, the upper motor neuron highway that was just passing through that area on its way down to the legs is also cut off. The LMNs for the legs are totally fine, but they've lost their manager. So the legs show UMN signs. They become spastic and over-reflexive. It's incredible. One injury, two completely different outcomes in the arms versus the legs.
And this is really the main takeaway here. By doing something as simple as testing reflexes and checking muscle tone, a doctor can use their knowledge of this two-neuron highway to pinpoint exactly where in the nervous system something has gone wrong. It's truly neurological detective work.
You know, this relationship between a manager neuron and a worker neuron is just such a fundamental principle of control inside our own bodies. It's this perfect hierarchy of command and inhibition, all to produce something as simple as a smooth movement. It really makes you wonder, what other elegant systems are hardwired into our biology, all perfectly balanced between go and stop?